Yo, what's up? I'm Snowman. Glad to have you guys here. Today I'm going to spoil you a movie named A Touch of Unseen. If you're ready, let's get started. Yeon-soo is told by a spirit medium that there will be a demon incubus to accompany her in the night, which it will always follow Yeon-soo, and there is no way to fix it unless you die. It is uncertain whether after Yeon-soo's death it will go to her family instead. Yeon-soo heard that and was very worried, because she didn't want incubus to mess with her younger sister Yeonhui, because now she has only one sister left because their parents are all dead from a previous accident. After that, she drove home and had to park the car in front of a house because the GPS was broken. Yeon-soo noticed that above there was a shadow of someone staring at her car. At that moment, Yeonhui called to wait for her to come back to eat together. Yeon-soo hurried back to her sister, and that night, something went wrong with Yeon-soo when a male figure hunched over her and had sex with her, which was actually an incubus demon. As the days passed, Yeon-soo decided to run away from her problems by leaving Yeonhui alone to prevent incubus from messing with her sister. 3 years have passed. Yeonhui is walking to school with her best friend Sunmi. They are both college girls. Sunmi keeps talking about having a board meeting with a guy. This made Yeonhui feel annoyed and cut off the script that she didn't care. She wants to find work and find an internship soon. When they both entered the classroom, Sunmi told Yeonhui that the professor called to meet him in the room. Maybe he can help her. As for finding an internship, Yeonhui gave a hopeful smile. But when you come to the room, Yeonhui was stunned by what he saw. The person sitting with the professor was Hak Chu, who in the past had flirted with Yeonhui and acted as a stalker until Yeonhui had to report him to the police 3 years ago. But Hakio's family begged her. It made her weak and he disappeared from her life since then. The professor urged that don't let the same thing happen again and say that Hak Chu will come back to study here from this semester onwards. When Yeonhui heard that, she got angry and went out to talk to Sunmi, which Sunmi knows about receiving love back to study again. She also wondered what the university was thinking, just like Yeonhui hadn't thought of this. Yeonhui has come to do supplementary work in the coffee shop, but he was shocked when he saw Hakio standing in front of the shop waiting, before he disappeared. And after work, Yeonhui walked back alone, which the atmosphere was quiet along with some shadow that followed her. That was Hakio. He tried to reconcile, but Yeonhui didn't take it and said that even if he died, he would never go back to being with him. When Hakio heard the word death, he let out a mischievous laugh, until Yeonhui rushed into the room and quickly locked the door. Then she thought of when she and Hakio were lovers and having sex for the first time, which was Yeonhui's first time. She asked Hakio to promise that if she had sex with him, would never leave her. The young man made a promise before having sex passionately. Currently, Yeonhui took a shower and sat on the bed. Outside, Hakio was eavesdropping on her before he left, and the girl went to bed, but then something went wrong with her. With the blanket being moved down, that was what her sister feared the most. Incubus had sex with Yeonhui while she was sleeping, without her consciousness. Next morning, Yeonhui tried to calm himself before he vaguely remembered that a man's body, which she thought was just a dream. He walked to the window and saw Hak Cho standing before he disappeared again. Meanwhile, on Yeon-soo, she works as an operator. Then she and her friend took a break for coffee on the rooftop that her friend had told him about. Devil incubus that comes out to mingle with young women when they sleep. Yeon-soo, hearing this, asked to go back to rest. When she arrived, she threw herself down on the sofa in exhaustion. Meanwhile, at the university, Hakio came to ask Yeonhui and Sunmi, but Sunmi doesn't seem to know where Yeonhui went before she walked away. So Sunmi came to find Yeonhui in the room. No matter how many knocks on the door, but there was no response. So she took the hidden spare key and opened it, and saw Yeonhui unconscious on the ground. So she hurriedly looked for a contact number to find someone to help and found Yeon-soo's number. She contacted Yeon-soo, Yeonhui's older sister. When she found out, she quit her job and drove off at speed. When she arrived, she asked Sunmi what had happened, but Sunmi couldn't answer. And at that moment, Hakio knocked on the door. Yeon-soo went out and opened the door and said that she was Yeonhui's older sister. Hakio couldn't believe it, because I had never heard that Yeonhui had an older sister, until Sunmi has to come out and confirm Hak Chio to believe. Yeon-soo then called Hak Chung out to have a private conversation. As for Sunmi's side, he could only walk around in the room. causing Yunhui to come back to his senses. She told me to stop walking. Sunmi asks what happened. Yunhui said that she had no strength. She felt that someone had entered her room, and after that she couldn't explain it. When the sound of Yunhui's stomach rang out, Sunmi volunteered to cook for her, but there was nothing in the refrigerator. So she said to call Yun-Su to bring in some shopping. Yunhui heard that, so she asked, "How did you know my sister?" Sunmi doesn't know what problems she and her sister have. But the situation is emergency, so I have to call. Back 3 years ago, Yun-Su had left her younger sister. She argues that she wants to live independently, but didn't tell the real reason, thus making it a clue to Yunhui's heart until now. Su's side, who called Hakio to talk to her, she said she already knew the whole story, that Hakio was a stalker, following her sister's life, which she gave an ultimatum to Hakio to stop messing with her sister before walking away. On the way, Sunmi calls, tell her to buy things, too. But in the meantime, the demon incubus has sex with Yunhui again. But luckily, Sunmi turned to see and came to see Yunhui. When she regained consciousness, she hurriedly pushed Sunmi to the ground. Before asking if he saw anyone in here, Sunmi said there was no one but the two of us. At that moment, Yun-Su, having heard of the anomaly, ran home until his heels were covered in blood. Upon arrival, Yunhui was still angry with what her sister had done to her. Su's wound on her heel, Yunhui becomes weak, and vented their hearts out, allowing the two brothers to adjust their understanding and get back together again. Yunhui wounded her sister, and Yun-Su decided to invite her sister to stay at home, which Yunhui accepted the invitation very well. And before leaving, Yunhui gave Sunmi the address before driving away. Until they arrived at the accommodation, the two brothers slept and talked again. Yunhui couldn't sleep but looked at her sister and was happy to sleep with her again. Finally, she fell asleep, and at that moment, the elevator opened with no one in the elevator, as if something was following the two of you. Morning, Yun-Su woke up to cook for Yunhui. When Yunhui woke up and walked outside, Yun-Su saw an abnormality. When Yunhui's stomach grew bigger like a pregnant woman, she tried to ask her sister, but Yunhui insisted firmly that she didn't know how it happened. Meanwhile, Hakio secretly climbed into Yunhui's house, but didn't find anyone, so he went to the university to ask Sunmi, but the girl immediately refused, causing Hakio to immediately know what Sunmi was hiding. So pretending to borrow a notebook, Sunmi thinks that Hakio will take the real notebook and find it from the locker for him. Hakio used that moment to secretly steal Sunmi's phone and open it, found the address of Yun-Su sent to Sunmi. Then he lurked near Yun-Su's address and gave Sunmi's phone to someone else. Hakchier, the moment when Yun-Su took Yunhui to the hospital, he called the mechanic to come, bolted on the door of Yun-Su's room, then came in and installed a surveillance camera in the living room. With Yunhui's bedroom, he searched the drawer and found the room key, before keeping it. But at that time, Sunmi came to visit Yunhui. Hakchio had to wait for Sunmi to go to the bathroom, so he took the opportunity to come out. Sunmi, who had arrived in front of Yunhui's room, entered easily. This made her very shocked and suspicious. Meanwhile, Yun-Su took Yunhui to the doctor. The doctor said that after doing the ultrasound, it was found that there was nothing in Yunhui's stomach, but outwardly, she looked like a pregnant woman, which the doctor couldn't help. Therefore, he suggested that Yunhui try to examine the body to see if there was anything wrong. Before the two of them returned to their accommodation, arriving at Yun-Su, she was shocked to see Sunmi enter the house. As for Yunhui, she walked into the bedroom shrouded in despair that she did not know who she was, which all the actions it was in Hakio's eyes as he looked through the surveillance cameras he had installed. Then Yun-Su made an offer to go to work. Sunmi understands Yun-Su's job duties and vows to take care of Yunhui. When Yun-Su left for work, everything was fine. Sunmi came to see her friend who was sleeping soundly, before she left to do her homework, until she fell asleep, so I couldn't hear Yun-Su's phone that had called. And at that moment, the devil incubus had sex with Yunhui in a raging heat. Finally, Yunhui regained consciousness and tried to escape. This is the same way that Hakio opened a program to view CCTV. So he saw Yunhui in a panic. So he hurriedly ran from the internet cafe, go to Yunhui's room. Opening the door, Hakio took out a knife and walked inside, causing Sunmi to wake up shocked. Hakeo yelled at the person who scared Yeonhui. Before seeing that the girl he fell in love with was pregnant, Hakeo quarreled with Yeonhui that this was what caused her to ignore him. That moment, Sunmi calls the police to arrest Hakeo and tells Yeon-soo about the incident. The police finally pulled out Hakcho. Yeon-soo then comes home and comforts her sister, who is in a state of panic. The next morning, the three of them were eating together. Hakeo contacted Yeon-soo and he said, now he only had a month left before he was taken to prison, and also said how much he loved Yeonhui, but Yeon-soo didn't listen. Hakcho reiterated that in a month he could do more than that. While asking Yeon-soo about the person who made Yeonhui like this, Yeon-soo didn't answer, so Hakeo said he would look for it and kill it before he hangs up. Then Yeon-soo returned to work. Until late at night, Yeon-soo came home, with a younger sister and Sunmi coming out to welcome her. But something unexpected happened when Hugcho secretly followed her behind him with a knife in his hand, and then went inside, hoping to kill Yeonhui to death, and then kill himself afterwards so that the two of them could be reborn. Sunmi calls the police. Yeon-soo asks Hakcho to leave and she won't bother. But it seems that the young man is not listening anymore, so Yeon-soo decides to fight Hakeo before she can knock his knife out of his hand. But in the end, he couldn't fight the strength of men. She was severely strangled by him. Yeonhui took the vase and hit Hakeo's head before the three of them tried to escape, but Chakcheo refused and grabbed Yeonhui's legs and dragged her back before stepping on her stomach, hoping that Yeonhui would bruise to death. Yeon-soo used his last strength to push Hakeo onto the sofa, and the mystery reappeared when the knife that Hakeo had slipped out of his hand was set up by himself. This was the exact moment when Yeon-soo pushed Hakcho and fell on top of his own knife. The young man stood still with a pool of blood gushing out. The next morning, Yeonhui asked her sister about what happened to Hakeo last night. Yeon-soo said that Hakeo was unconscious right now, but Yeonhui didn't ask about her knife, even though the knife it had set up exactly when Hakcho fell, which thought that the devil incubus would definitely help her, but she did not want to be a slave to incubus for the rest of her life. Yeon-soo promised to her sister that she would deal with the matter herself. In the middle of the night, after Yeonhui had gone to sleep, Yeon-soo came to the spiritualist to find a way out because she didn't want her sister to suffer. The Lord recommended that she had to pay for her life. Are you ready? Before giving one candle, let Yeon-soo light it to summon the incubus, with the condition that between having sex with incubus, if Yeon-soo dies, everything will be fine. Everything will be fine, and the incubus's spirit will never appear again. Yeon-soo prepared herself before driving out to the house where she had seen shadows of people live there. She opened the door and went inside, and walked upstairs alone. Above it was like a storage room and a bed was placed. Yeon-soo lit a candle as the spiritualist said, and it was at the same time that the Lord performed the eviction ceremony. After lighting a candle for a while, it appeared that something followed up to the room where she was. Incubus has arrived, she said. She was ready, making it smile terrifyingly. Before, Yeon-soo had sex with the devil incubus passionately, until she forgot that it was a devil. The next morning, Yeonhui woke up to find that her stomach had returned to normal. She was overjoyed and shouted for Yeon-soo, but there was no response, because Yeon-soo was sleeping in the storage room in that house, without anyone knowing if she was or died. 2 years have passed. Yeonhui has finished his studies, and have a stable job, plus now she's in love. After work, her boyfriend drove her before the couple separated. As his boyfriend drove off, Yeonhui saw Hugcho standing in dark glasses, looking at her in the distance, before he immediately disappeared. And this movie, it received a 5.2 rating from IMDb critics. If you like video, please subscribe. Thank you so much.